Yo, what the deal? It's your boy X.E.L.O. Welcome back to the channel, man. Thank you. Yes, thank you for coming back. But if you are new here, please do me a favor and like, subscribe, hit the bell notification, and I'll let you know when I drop another video. All right, so what I want to do in today's video is to go over how to set up the Kontrol MK3 in different DAWs. So I'm gonna go through a couple of different DAWs and show you exactly how to get it set up so you can use it for like the transport and as a keyboard in your DAW. Let's go. All right, so here we are in Ableton Live, and I have a couple of tracks set up here on the side, on this right-hand side. But in order to actually set the keyboard up, let's go through that setup first. So you're gonna go up to Options. And once you're in Options, you go down to Preferences, right? And once you're in Preferences, you wanna make sure that you have this Complete Control option here. You're gonna just click on this and you're gonna go down and it's gonna say Complete Kontrol MK3. So make sure you have this one inside of your Ableton, or else you won't be able to like control or see any of the buttons light up on here. So make sure that's selected, and then you want to also click on here and make sure that your port 2 is the one that you select to control. I have the S49 MK3. Make sure it's on port 2 for your in, and you can do it for your out as well. So now you have full control over the DAW. And then down here is gonna actually for the ports, and this should pop up automatically that says Complete Kontrol MK3 input. And I just selected all of them. You don't have to select these other ones, but I just selected them just because the keyboard should be able to do some of these things. So I made sure I put it on there for it to do it. All right, so now we're in the actual Ableton. If I wanted to, I can scroll up and down. As you see, I have a complete control on this one, so I can kind of control this as well. So you have your options to kind of go up and down. I haven't found out what scrolling the wheel does inside of Ableton. It doesn't really seem to do anything, but your transport controls do work. Your play, stop, your record, all that stuff does work inside here. The thing about the keyboard that I've told you before in another video that I didn't really like is you have to hold shift to do a lot of the other things, where the MK2 just had buttons. You just pressed it in and it kind of worked. So yeah, so let's say that I did go to this Complete Control and I wanted to browse. Let's say we just chose, let's just do 40s drums, right? And that's the one we select. So I'm gonna hit load. All right, so now we have 40s drums on here and on the screen here. So and you have all your recording options that you can do. Just record. Right, so you have these options to record and do everything from here. I guess it does. Will allow me to still go down to another track if I needed to go to a different track. Right, so we have that set up on here where you can just kind of go freely and make your stuff using this controller. I just never really liked the fact that I gotta, hold shift to do certain things. Like if I wanted to do a tap tempo, I can't just tap it. I have to hold shift to tap it. If I wanted to do or take off my count in, I have to hold shift to do that, or to make it restart to play, shift and play. It's like, it's kind of weird to have to do all that with the keyboard, but to each his own. I think people will like it either way, especially if you're like a really big fan of native instruments. You'll probably say this is amazing, but I just think it's kind of weird that they took away a lot of the buttons to get things to function a lot easier. But let's move on to the next DAW and make sure you get that one set up as well. All right, so here we are in Cubase, and this is actually Cubase 13. You have to have Cubase 13 in order for this keyboard to actually work. Inside of Cubase itself. I haven't seen it working in the 11 that I have. I wasn't able to get the buttons to pop up like this on here, or this DAW option, but for 13, you get the DAW option, you get the buttons and the layout that you need in here. You get to scroll with your mouse. You can move your stuff around. You can scroll with the wheel to move stuff around if you wanted to do that. Your play and your record actually work. And you have your metronome that you can put on. You can put on a loop if you want to put on a loop. So yeah, you have a couple of options in here that actually do work with the keyboard, but let me show you how to actually get the keyboard to get set up. So what you want to do is go up here to where it says Studio. So you click on Studio, and then you want to go down to where it says Studio Setup, right? And this will show you that the Komplete Kontrol MK3 is on here. You want to make sure that it's set on this MIDI in2. This is the only way you're going to get like your transport and stuff to actually work with the keyboard and inside of Cubase, right? And your MIDI out has to be the MIDI out 2 for your Control S, whatever you have, 61 or 82 or the 49. In any one of them that you have, the MK3, just make sure it has the MIDI out 2 on there, and it should be able to work inside of Cubase, right? When I actually turned this on and plugged it in and opened up Cubase, it automatically detected it and set it up for me. I didn't have to do this. So this is one of the DAWs that you don't have to do this or set this up in, which is always good, right? And like just like in Ableton, what I showed you, you can kind of move down and go through your different things. I have complete controls set up on the other two, but if you go to a regular track, it'll just say default MIDI template, which is cool. So I can go here and actually use the drums. I have a 40 set up on here, right? And I can just record something in if I wanted to. Let's go back to the beginning, make sure it's set on the beginning. Or I can use the scroll wheel to go back to the beginning. I want to make sure the metronome is on, and I'm going to hit record. All right, so boom, you have these in here now. All right, and let's say you wanted to quantize. The quantize does work. You can quantize the notes. As you see, they kind of adjusted over, which is really cool. You can hit undo to undo whatever you just did. Hit undo again, it'll take away whatever I just recorded in. So the keyboard functions pretty well with Cubase. So let's move to another DAW and actually show you how that's set up in there as well. Let's go. All right, so here we are in Studio One. You have to have 6.5 in order for this keyboard to work correctly. So let's show you how to set this up inside of Studio One 6.5. Right, so I have a couple of tracks in here. It still kind of works the same. I can move down with the track wheel to go up and down on the track. I can move the little scroll left and right, and it'll move my timeline, right? So all of those things are still pretty much the same. If I go to DAW, it'll bring up my mixer, so I'll see the mixer on here. So all that stuff is pretty much the same, which is really, really cool. All right, so what you want to do is go up to here where it says Studio One, click on that. And then you want to go down to where it says Options, or basically P for like your preferences for the thing. And it has External Devices is where you want to be. And you want to make sure you have the Complete S control, the one that says DAW. All right, so I'm going to show you how I set all this up. I'm going to remove both of them off of here. So now nothing is going to work. You see my transport turned dark, nothing's working. I can't play the keys, even though it should be playing right now, right? So what you want to do is go to Add. Once you click on Add, you want to go to Native Instruments. And once you're in Native Instruments, you want to go to Complete Kontrol S, right? So once you're on Complete Kontrol S, you go over here, you'll see it says Complete Kontrol S. Go to this where it says None and click on Kontrol S, whatever you have, 49, 61, 88, whichever one you have, MK3. So you click on that, you hit OK, right? And now you can see if I press keys, the MIDI is moving over there, right? It's playing. So that's how you get the sounds to play. So now if you wanted the controls to come back, you want to go to Add, go back into Native Instruments. And this time you want to go to the one that says DAW, the one that says Complete Control DAW. Click on that. So now you have this option to receive from. You want to click on the second one, this MIDI in2. And for this one, you want to do the MIDI in2 for the out as well. And then you hit OK. And guess what? Now you have your transport button set up on here for Studio One, right? Then you hit OK. Right, I'm gonna hold Shift, do my count in. Let's see if we can record something in. Right, little 2-bar kind of loop in there, nothing special. Bring this in, and I can go down to, the complete control. Boom, I want complete control. Let's go to 40s drums. I'm gonna load it up, maybe. And I can record this in. So boom, so now we have drums and we have some keys, and you can kind of go back and forth with them. If I go down to the next one, I can go to the next one. If I go up, I can go back to this one that I already had set up, or I can go to the first one. I can still do my my mixer in here as well. And if I wanted to do like a solo instead of the mute, I have to hold down the Shift, and then it'll give me an option for the solo up here to solo it out. And this works for all the 3 DAWs that I already showed in this video, right? So let's move on to the next DAW. All right, so here we are in BitWig. This DAW automatically sets up the keyboard once it recognizes it in there, which is really, really good. But I'm gonna show you how to actually get it if it wasn't set up already in the DAW itself, right? It does things a little bit different in this one. Instead of going up and down, you have to go left and right to actually go up and down on here. So if I go left or right, it'll go up and down on the chain, right? So that's a little bit different from where we had it before. But let me show you how to actually get everything set up on here. What you want to do is go up to File. Once you're in File, you're going to go to Settings. And once you're in Settings, you'll see this area here that says Complete Control MK3, right? So it'll automatically set it up on here, and it'll automatically set up the controller for it as well. So as you see, you do need both sections in order for it to actually work. So you have to have the keyboard set up to work the keyboard. Then you have to have the MIDI in set up to use the controls on here, just like we did in Studio One just now. So some DAWs will have it set up a little bit different, but this seems to be the typical way to set it up, is making sure that this MIDI in2 is on to control your settings over here. So that's how you would actually do it in BitWig. Like I said, it pretty much works the same. Just you change this right here. Instead of going up and down, you have to go left and right on here to get it to go to the next track. Right? I'm just going to load something up on here just so you can kind of see it, I guess, in action. So I'm going to record. And you have to hit play inside of BitWig. I don't know why they have it set that way, but it is how they have it. I'll turn on the metronome. All right, so there you have it. You can actually record in here. It's pretty easy to kind of get everything set up. You can do undo to undo whatever you did. So the transport stuff works. The plugins work. The DAW part works where you can actually mess with the mixer. So all that stuff is still cohesive on this keyboard. So let's move on to another DAW. All right, so here we are in Cakewalk. And if you are interested in this theme or my light theme, I still have them available. They should be below in the description of this video. You can download them for free. All right, so inside of Cakewalk, I finally got the transport to kind of work, but as you can see, only the stop button lights up. If I hit play, it'll actually play, right? And then it'll stay on play, but when I hit stop, it'll hit the stop. If I hit record, it'll do the record and all that stuff on here. But like, you can't see it. Like, I don't understand why you can't see it. Like, I can't see anything inside of this transport. Like, it's all dark. It works right now because of how I have it set up, but it doesn't give me all the options. Like, if I hit on DAW, it doesn't do the DAW option to see like the tracks in there. So, I mean, it is what it is. And it's not really compatible with Cakewalk. As we already know, a lot of things aren't compatible with it, but let me show you how to at least get it set up so you can get your transport to at least work inside the DAW, right? Because if I do, you know, if I can play on the keyboard, which is good. And like I said, I can use the transport to do the stuff, but it doesn't light up. So sometimes you'll miss whatever you're trying to do because you can't see it. All right. So usually to get this set up, what you want to do is go to your preferences. So click on P on your keyboard, it'll bring up your preferences. You want to go to devices, right? And make sure your Kontrol S49 is connected. This is how the keyboard actually works and plays. In order to actually use the controls, you have to have the MIDI in Kontrol S49 MK3 selected, right? So whatever, you know, version 49, 61, or 82, whatever one you have, or 88, I'm sorry, whatever one you have, this is what you have to do to make sure that it's set up, right? And then you want to go to your control surfaces, right? And once you're in the control surfaces, you want to make sure you're on the Mackie one and your import. So I'm going to set up a new one on here just so you guys can see it. So you want to go here to this control surface, click on here, and you want to go to your Mackie control. So once you're on Mackie control, make sure you are on the MIDI N2, right? So make sure this MIDI N2 is the one that you're actually using. And then you hit OK, right? And it'll bring you up to this part here. So once you have this set up, you can hit apply and then hit OK. And you want to go up to your utilities, right? And once you're in utilities, you'll see the one you just set up, the Mackie control. Click on that, right? And it'll bring up this dialog box. Just make sure this disable handshake is actually checked. This is the one that's important for it to actually work with your transport controls. And after you do that, you should be able to hit play on the keyboard and it'll play and stop and record. And as you see, like the weird thing about it is like the play, stop, and record will work, but like the loop, it'll light up, but it will not set up the loop on here. Because if I hit on the loop option here, as you see, this is where the loop is on. If I hit it to turn it on or off, it's not actually doing the loop. So, so not all the transport stuff works. You can't bring up the mixer. Like I was saying, I made this video just to let you guys know that it does work with the transport, but just the play, stop, and record option works on there. So you would do the up and down to move it to different ones. So if you do wind up on one of these like complete control ones, and like you're on this browser section, you have to hold down Shift and the MIDI settings in order to jump out of it so you can actually control the DAW again, right? So now I should be able to go up and down on the DAW to the different things. Whereas this one doesn't have a sound on it yet. So like you can go to the browser, but I think this browser is for the last one. You can't really control the complete controls inside here like you want to either. And that's another thing that's kind of weird. Like this, seeing that I have two, it'll only control the last one that you actually created in here. So it has a lot of flaws with it. I'm not 100% sure why it was done this way, but you know, it is what it is, right? So, all right, so let's move on to another DAW. All right, so here we are in FL Studio. And as you see, I have a complete control setup on here, and I also have a FL key. So if I go up with the little knob, it'll actually go up. I can hold shift to go back to the MIDI section on here. It does not bring up the mixer. It doesn't give me an option for other stuff on here. The stop and like the play does work on here. So you can make it play, right? You can also do the record, and you have to hit the play and record to get it to work, right? So all those functions do work. Let me show you how I got it set up. So what you want to do is go up to options, and then you want to go to MIDI settings. Once you're in MIDI settings, you want to make sure you have this Kontrol S49 MK3 set up on here. So this will control the keys itself. And then you also want to have this MIDI N2 Kontrol S49 with a Mackie Control Universal, right? So in order to actually get to this Mackie Control Universal, you need to go through the settings on here. So you go to controller type, you hit the drop down, and you want to look for legacy. And then you're going to see the one that says Mackie Control Universal. So once you have that set up on there, you'll be able to use this and the transport for FL Studio with this keyboard. Other than that, it's not really that much other functions that it does, other than the play, stop, and record, right? So it does work inside of FL Studio. You know, like I said, if you wanted to play some keys and record stuff in there, it'll actually work. And you'll be able to kind of go up and down inside of the chain. So if I went here, right? So these options do work inside the DAW, which is really cool. But, you know, it still has its limitations if you're actually going to be using this. So this is definitely something that you have to take in mind if you're going to get this keyboard and you're going to be using FL Studio. It kind of works, but it doesn't completely work the way you want it to. Like that DAW function is not there. You don't do the mixing part, but you do have the transport if you want to do that inside this DAW. But let's move on to another DAW. All right, so here we are in Reaper, and y'all already know this is like my DAW right now. So the functions that it did inside of Cakewalk is kind of the same that it does inside here, and the same as it does inside of FL Studio. So you have some real limitations, like your stop button does work, your play button does work, but as you can see, it doesn't light up. You can't see it, especially in Reaper, like you can't see it light up or stay lit up. It does the recording as well, but it doesn't light up. You can't see that you're actually doing a record in here, right? For your loop does work, so you can turn your loop on and off, but like once again, it doesn't light up, so you can't really see that it's working. But let me show you how I got it set up inside of Reaper. So if you go up to your options, right, and then you go down to preferences, and once you're in preferences, you'll want to go to your MIDI devices. So once you're in the MIDI devices, this is kind of tricky to set up inside of Reaper for me to actually get it to work the right way, right? So the first thing you need to do is make sure that the Kontrol S49 key is set up for input, right? Input and all. You don't have to have the control on. That's not necessary to do, right? And before you actually go to the second part, which would be this MIDI controller S49 part, so you can control the DAW itself, you want to scroll down on this left-hand side, all the way down to where it says Control OC Web, right? And you want to make sure that you have this Mackie control set up. So you can do, you do an add, right? And it'll bring this up. Make sure you're choosing the Mackie Control Universal, and make sure your input is this MIDI N2 Control Surface S49 MK3. Once you have that set up on here, you hit OK. Then you have to go back. I know, it's a lot, I'm trying to tell you. Then you go back to MIDI devices. And once you're in the MIDI devices, then you turn on the input, the all, and the control. And now you'll be able to control the keyboard, control the DAW from the keyboard itself, right? So there's a lot of steps just to get the transport to actually work inside of Reaper. But I mean, it's definitely something to try if you want to. I still think the MK2 is the one I would go with. Like, you can play and record and do all that stuff on this keyboard, but I just feel like it just gives it so much limitation. I'm not sure if they'll integrate Reaper, you know, into their mix of being able to control the DAW completely and like your mixers and all that other stuff. I don't know if they'll be able to do that, or they will do that or not. But it is something that's out there. And like I said, if you are a fan of Native Instruments and you want to get this keyboard, this is just a video showing you guys how to actually get it set up for whatever DAW you're actually using. I only have Windows. I don't have Logic to show you guys Logic or any of the other things inside of Logic, or I'm sorry, inside of Apple or Macs. So I'm only limited to the Windows stuff that I do have. And the other one that I do have that doesn't work would be Traction Waveform. Like, I can't get it to do any of this stuff. None of the transport stuff works in it whatsoever. The keyboard part does work because you can set up the keyboard, but you can't do any of the transport stuff inside of the Traction Waveform. I don't know if they're going to do an update for it or if it will work later on in the future, but currently it does not work. But with that being said, that's pretty much the end of this video. I hope you guys really got something out of it. I hope I helped someone out with this MK3, getting it set up in their DAW. If you have like any questions or concerns, please leave them below in the comment section, and make sure you guys are liking and subscribing to the channel. And with that being said, that's the end of this video. And once again, it's your boy, X.E.L.O. Till next time, people. Peace.